Good evening, Kart Chaser Nation. Welcome back to Kart Chasers Grit Talk, episode number 21. Grit Talk Tuesday on this, beautiful Tuesday evening. As always, my name is Kaleb Viesca. A pleasure to have all you guys here with us tonight on what's going to be a star-studded lineup for our 21st episode. And with that being said, we have a lot of guests coming on. Billy Musgrave, Aden Rudolph, Alex Stanfield, both who won the Duffy this past weekend, and James Overbeck, who we need to catch up with after he had a really, really good month of July. But we talk about our star-studded guests. How about our star-studded hosts as well? Emory Lyda coming up here first and going to be racing this weekend. So back in the seat for the one and only Emory Lyda. Good to have you back. And Alexander Searle, everybody's favorite pit reporter, announcer, whatever you call it, back here this weekend as well. Boys, we a little bit of a hiatus, I should say, for a week. I know we were kind of in a role of doing back-to-back podcasts, but, you know, life gets in the way. Emory wants to be a lawyer one day. Alex had family visit, and I was on the road with Xander kind of going to Amarillo, which kind of put us behind on the entire planning and whatnot. But thanks to our wonderful guests that were kind of cooperating with us, and we're happy to move it back. But how you boys been? How was y'all's week? I guess having it off.
I've been good. I mean, like you said, I got to see family that I haven't seen in a long time. My brother actually, his two kids as well. So I got to go to Connecticut, kind of wind down, relax for a bit. Took a trip to the city, New York. So yeah, good time. Obviously, wish we could have done the podcast last week, but the three of us, like you mentioned, all had things kind of come up last minute. Couldn't really squeeze the day in, but we squeezed it in, obviously, as always, for the boys at home and the boys and girls at home that are watching now or later on, hopefully. You could do that on Spotify and on YouTube and on Facebook. But, yeah, of course, good to be back as always.
Emory?
Yeah, no, awesome to be back. I mean, this last week or so has been just about everything you could think of. I mean, I've moved apartments in Chapel Hill. Currently not there, but I will be in a couple of weeks. So that took up a lot of my time last week. Been studying for the LSAT. I take it at 8 a.m. tomorrow. So that's going to be wonderful. I think I'm going to get off this podcast and probably go straight to sleep. And yeah, as soon as I get done with that, pack up and go straight up 7 hours to MCC. Hopefully avoid a hurricane on the way up there, and then get back in the seat and try to keep up with some of our younger, faster drivers that are out there.
Yeah, and a couple of those are going to be on this show. But to kind of recap the, past 2 weeks, we were at the SKUSA SummerNationals, and that was a good weekend. And a lot of people crown themselves champions. So Matthias Morgado in that pro shifter class and X30 Pro as well for Ryan Norberg out of nowhere. So that was pretty good. And all the way down, James Overbeck solidified himself as the SKUSA Pro Tour champion in K100 Seniors. So big congrats to James. And he's in our actually green room right now, but we'll speak to him all the way at the end of this show. So excited to hear from him on how his first two big national wins have been.
I think we just lost Kaleb there.
I think we just lost Kaleb.
I'm going to piggyback off what he said, though. I'm actually curious to hear from you first, Emory. What stood out to you most, not only from the finale of the SKUSA Pro Show, SKUSA Pro Tour, but for the championship as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, first off, a really fun, exciting weekend in X30. We saw Ryan Norberg kind of really come into the final race 46 points behind. He was able to come away with the championship after a dominating final performance. We saw Hayden Jones with a rough start, finishing second. That kind of took, honestly, our kind of main focus on the points battle side of things, but really all throughout there were some fun battles. I mean, we saw Shifter, the contact between AJ Myers, Matthias Morgado, definitely some fireworks there, some things that we're going to be talking about a little bit, I think, in this episode, but more so in the future as we go on into the later months of the year. And then finally, I mean, James Overbeck, I feel kind of bad with him being in the green room listening to this, but we are going to get a full segment with him later on. Man, what a month for him. I mean, going from really no national wins to 2 in the span of 3 weeks, 1 national championship in the Pro Tour against the stack field. And I mean, he's on the way, I would say, to a Stars championship pending any sort of DNFs or poor performance as a track house. But I mean, for me, I think it's just kind of just the storyline of great clean racing in Newcastle. We saw very few red flags, very few incidents, and some championship battles that came all the way down to the wire. Overbeck winning over Finn, we saw a good performance there for Norberg. And then obviously the fireworks with AJ and Mateus and Billy Musgrave, who we'll talk to a little bit later on, getting that triumphant win.
Yeah, I mean, this show is going to actually highlight it pretty well. I think there's a couple of storylines, right? We have the 2 July standouts with James and Billy Musgrave. You know, it was a long time coming for Billy. Got it done the Stars race and then did it again at the SKUSA Pro Tour. And then James Overbeck took him so long to get that first KA senior race, and now all of a sudden he's dominance, right? Hasn't looked back since. Crown champion this past weekend, so congratulations to him. And of course, we're gonna get a chance to talk to him later. Kaleb, I'll ask you kind of the same thing. I know you were highlighting a lot of it, and welcome back to the show.
Yeah, sorry.
But you know what kind of stood out to you in this past weekend at Newcastle, and then throughout the championship as a whole?
Yeah, last weekend obviously was really, really interesting. I think the format did a lot for the racing. It wasn't as easy as some drivers would have thought, and kind of mixed it up for us a little bit, made the track a little bit more technical. So I think that was always good to see from our side and as a viewer side as well. So that was good. And as well, a lot of other stuff. The amount of grip on the racetrack was also one of the things that also caught my attention. I think the amount of grip that was in the pit lane. I was kind of staged right next to the pit lane, and the amount of grip that was there was really, really insane to me. So that was pretty crazy to kind of see. But all that being said about SKUSA, and again, I apologize for losing power here for just a second. I think one of my HDMI cables was just slightly unplugged. So yeah, that was quite scary, but we got it up and rolling now. But without, I guess, prolonging this any longer, let's invite some of our guests here this weekend, and we'll give a round of applause to both of these young men who gave themselves and put themselves, I think Aden again this year, went back-to-back last year, and does it here this year in the 206 senior class. So congrats to both of these guys. Aden Rudolph, your 2024 Duffy 206 senior champion, IKF Grand National champion. So round of applause for Aden Rudolph joining us here tonight on the show. And Alex Stanfield here as well, your KA 100 IKF Grand National champion. And you see his trophy kind of in the background. Alex, why don't you grab that trophy and kind of show it off for some of us? And Aden, you can do the same thing as well. I know they're quite heavy, but there you guys.
They're super heavy, extremely heavy.
Yeah, I was kind of one of the big characteristics of those, and you kind of hear them kind of clanking around. And Alex, I know you have a pretty cool story for us after the day on Sunday. You went and got a dog, and I'll kind of let you take over from here.
Yeah, so Sunday night we picked up a new boy boxer, and I was trying to think of a name. And my grandma was like, if you win the Duffy, let's name the dog Duffy. And so, yeah, we named the boxer Duffy. And I think that's a perfect name. So, yeah, I'm happy for that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of great to hear from you two boys. And it was a hot weekend for all of us. I know Aden was out in the CRG tent out there kind of pretty much in the sun with some fans. But Alex was kind of in the shop. But how was y'all's weekend, boys? Yeah, I guess you can say, and that's kind of what you get whenever you're, I guess, at your home track or whatnot. I think Aden's kind of quite used to that whenever we go to speed sports. But, that being said, just walk us through your weekends, boys. Walk us through kind of how it went. I know Alex probably had a more up and down weekend in both classes, and Aden's was kind of smooth sailing. So, Alex, we'll start with you. Kind of just walk us through your weekend, dude.
Yeah, 2 classes was always going to be a little more difficult than just one, but in KA it was pretty easy. We just came out of the gate really fast and kept the cart just loose as we could, and I think we only lost one heat race, and put it on pole, lost the first heat race, won the second and third, and I think we led every lap in the main. So that was rolling, and the Allison Racing engines was so fast on that TV, and the 206 was good as well. I know me and Aden were pushing in qualifying, which I think we had like a 10
Thank you for that
in the field. Yeah, of course, bro. You owe me one a little bit, but no, it was close. It was close, and the starts were tough. The outside line, I don't think got a good start once the whole weekend. And Briggs. So
I think during one of those you found yourself in the dirt, dude. You were kind of
I think
just
all three
few
of
of
them.
them.
I was
Yeah,
in
a
the
few
dirt.
of them.
I think every single one I was in the dirt. Yeah.
yeah.
Every single one. Yeah.
So, I think the first heat race I recovered good. The third, second one was like sixth. But the third heat race got taken out in turn one, went back to like 10th, drove it back up to like 6th, and then got wrecked again going in the last corner. And I think there was like 4 go-karts, and then me and Jerry Fandry went to the inside and cut the whole last corner completely to try to avoid the wreck. So that was kind of iffy, but we started the final 5th, which was good. And the inside line got a good start. So that was good. And then made like one bad call on the racecraft in 206, which I wasn't really used to. And Aden and Josie got away, and then I was trying to push back up, but just wasn't enough really. That's all it was. So third was pretty good.
Yeah, Aden, I know. I'm actually not even gonna let you say how your weekend went because you swept the entire thing from start to finish, and people may argue that Chuck over here kind of gave you the pull. I wouldn't say gave you, but helped you to the pull. But that being said, I guess I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. How did your weekend go? I mean, you were in the lead like the entire time, so I guess if you want to explain how it went.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, it was pretty smooth sailing. Practice days we weren't the fastest, but then by the end of the Friday, me and Alex, I went to Alex actually in the TB air conditioning tent, and I was like, dude, the practice before qualifying, we were definitely the fastest, just us two out front, and I went to him like, bro, we got to do the same thing. And we did. And luckily we had his teammate, Jerry, pushing us. He had a crazy motor that weekend. So he helped us out. I was second in line. Alex was first. That's the first mistake. Alex doesn't know yet, but you cannot be the first. You cannot be leading the pack in qualifying in 206. So that helped out a lot. I was second in line getting pushed. And I also had Alex's draft. So that helped a lot. I think me and Alex were first and second by a few tenths. And so that set the bar for the weekend, and each race was pretty smooth sailing. I think the only really challenging race was the Heat 2 race. We tried something different with gearing, and that set us back on the back foot a little bit, and let the others catch up a little bit. But that race was kind of insane and a little bit aggressive compared to like the rest of the weekend I had. Yeah. But then, the final, I led the entire thing, and thankfully Josie Chambers was kind enough to be pushing me, and we played it really smart, and I'm glad we weren't caught by Alex. And who was pushing you, Alex? Was it
Matthew Winfrey in the
Matthew Winfrey racing? Dude, that guy was fast. That guy was really fast.
Yeah. We were when I was behind him, we weren't catching, and I was trying to get around him as quick as I could, but the gearing was just a little off at the end of the straight. Yeah. And I kept trying to duck out, and I couldn't get past him. By the time I got past him, it was like 4 minutes to go, and it was like half a tenth. We lose half a tenth, gain half a tenth, and it was just we were all so
passing
close.
Passing in 206 just costs you so much time. So,
and that's why I was trying to get it right, and it wasn't.
Yeah, Josie not passing me helped out a lot. So it was good, and me and Josie had a good last lap battle, and I say. I mean, I was defending and played it pretty perfectly. So it was good to go off with the win. And, I've been struggling this year in 206, especially for some reason, just not knowing the racecraft and in a different discipline. So, this weekend I went in fully focused on 206 and, trying to learn a different racecraft and the different drivers. And, I think I accomplished that. So.
Yeah. And I think accomplished that was probably, a very good way to put it. And you say that one of those heat races was, I guess, your hardest one. I think your hardest race of the weekend was probably when you came up to announce the KA senior main event. Because it's kind of funny. And for those of you viewers at home that are kind of watching on, these guys, and I'll put everybody under the bus here, even myself. All these guys are probably the most talkative guys out there, and they're gonna either chat some mess with you in the 10 or talk mess on grid or whatnot. But when you give them a microphone and put a camera in front of their face and put a microphone in their face, these guys go quiet. Aden, I think I really messed with you about this, especially because I was like, dude, you're literally like, I feel like you're shaking next to me, like when we're I'm seriously shaking. And we like talk to each other like 3 times a week, dude. Like, what's the deal here?
I don't know. It's either, just me sitting next to you intimidates me, No, I mean, it's hard. I'm sure you're the same way with Xander, you know, with someone that's way better than you announcing. Next to them. Okay, not like that.
I'm gonna kick Aden out of this thing, dude. Goodness gracious.
I love throwing shade at Kaleb, but not way better. You're way better than I am. Caleb's Xander's a little bit better than you, Kaleb.
He's way better. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you admit that.
Dude,
but yeah,
I'm gonna kick this guy out.
No, but seriously, every time, it's not even when I'm announcing, even if I go out for interviews or like post-race interviews, I am like so nervous. I'm more nervous than I am racing for some reason. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know why. I talk to everybody on grid. I talk to everybody in the paddock. You know, I talk to random people every single day. So, you know, it's just something like, you know, putting a microphone, and if you mess up, then, you know, you get text in the group chat saying you just stuttered the whole time. You know, I got text that the whole time. So that doesn't help. But, you know, I mean, I actually do enjoy being up there. And I, you know, especially this weekend, I was watching the class I usually race in, and, you know, it was fun. It was fun commentating the racers that I do usually race with, and watching their racing from third person, you know, not being on track was definitely different. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was I guess it was fun. You know, it's always cool whenever we have like driver announcers kind of come up and announce. I mean, all of us are kind of drivers, but I would argue that all of us are pretty washed. Well, I was never good, but you know, Emory, when he comes up, Emory's not washed. Emory's all right. But like me and Alex,
occasionally.
Yeah. He has
Alex. Wow.
Whenever me and Alex go up, we're like,
that's a rough one.
You know.
Hey, this dude's a Moss Sport legend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's in Canada.
It is in Canada.
Moss is in Canada.
I thought Kaleb was just saying Alex Stanfield was washed. We gotta mix up.
Not yet.
We have two. We'll just call Alex Chuck for the rest of the show.
Chuck.
We'll call Alex Chuck for the rest of the show, and
there you go.
And that'll be good. Aden, Chuck Frank says Aden needs to run double like Alex did this past weekend. So,
I mean, I have this whole season. It was just different this weekend. I was working on my own go-kart, so you know, and I think you get the results a little bit better when you are focused on one class. Yeah. Alex saw it this weekend. He was way faster than he was in KA than he was in 206. So, you know, and that's how I've been this whole season. I've been faster in one of the other classes, mainly KA, but you know, it's especially this weekend in the smoldering heat. I was not willing to work on two go-karts. So, you know, I think later on this season, I will be only running one class, and I'll be KA. I'll be done with 206 for the rest of the season, except for CKNA Grand Nats, and I'll be working on my own go-kart. So I actually enjoy working
there. That's probably breaking news there. I don't
know
if you're supposed to say that, but that's probably breaking news. And I guess Aden just broke the news. Aden Rudolph and CRG Nordham to CKNA Grand Nationals later on this year. So that'll be exciting. Different tire, different racers.
Yep. Different tire, different racers. You know, I've never driven 206 around that track. I love that track in KA. So, you know, it'll be fun. And and you know, I'll just be running KA and TSRS, you know, hopefully lock out the championship later this season. So it'll be good.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll be exciting to kind of see you out there. And Alex, you know, I kind of have to take it back to last year at the end of it. And I don't think we've really gotten to talk to you kind of about it. But you were kind of set to retire at the end of the year. And, you know, you look back this year, you get the call from Kyle Uchinsky at Emory Lyda Kart Complex, TB Kart South, and kind of puts your whole year together. And for Aden as well, I'll kind of mention it for him. You two boys, I think, had some of the biggest and most surprising changes of teams over the winter. Aden, obviously, from your dad's team at AR Academy with the Burrell Art team with PSL, you moved over to CRG Nordham, and Alex, you from Gary Willis, you know, almost like I would say like a father figure to you, kind of changing over. So we'll start with Alex here, but how was that kind of like trying out something new for you this year and kind of trying the TB card on? How's it been so far?
Yeah, I'm thankful for Kyle to give me this opportunity. And, you know, I thought I was done at the end of the year. I said that the last 2 years, I'm pretty sure. But, you know, I really thought I was done after Supernats, and to end Supernats so terrible, I guess. It was pretty mid. It was like 20th. I was like, that's kind of not the way I wanted to end. And then Kyle, I think, texted me like a few days after I was, you know, supposed to be done. And so I kind of kept that quiet for a long time. And then, when we started testing, it was fast. And I think we've been learning the chassis a lot too. We've been really close every race.
Mhm.
And testing is always important. And that's what we've been doing to try to progress as a team. And we've also developing other drivers as well. And NOLA, we were quick. Speed Sports, we were also quick. I think we got 4th, right behind Aden. And then Kart Moto, we didn't finish. So
I think I got second that race.
yeah,
Yeah.
two behind. And then we've always been pretty close to the front. It's just a little mistake here, racing incident there. But I know this weekend we were just trying to put it together as a team, and I'm just glad we accomplished the win. So yeah, I'm happy for that.
Yeah, and Aden, talk about kind of CRG and how that deal came along. And I know your dad ended his career with, I guess, CRG whenever PSL was under CRG back in the day, way back in the day. I'll say if Alan's kind of listening. So, but yeah, how's that kind of been like? It's I guess when you went back to PSL, it's kind of like going back to the team you grew up with, and then going back to the brand, I guess, that you kind of saw your dad racing whenever you were young.
Yeah, for sure. Me and PSL had a great time together, and we ended our relationship off pretty well, and at SuperNats qualifying on pole, and I think we finished like 10th or whatever. But we were always running up front every race, and at the beginning of the season, I was like, I want to try something new. I also just turned 18. I needed a job. That was my big thing. I needed a job. I needed to start making some money. So it was just a coincidence. Not really, but the CRG Nordum shop is just 20 minutes down the road. So, I went to you and Jeffrey and had a sit down talk with him. And I was like, hey, I think we can team up this year. I'll work here so I can, race for you. And we did just that. And, we went to NOLA starting off super strong and obviously winning in NOLA. And, I haven't not been on a podium this entire year. USPKS is a different story. I started off the year pretty strong, and Wisconsin was a bit iffy, but Cincinnati will be good. And yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. I work a full-time job there now, so and then I get to on the weekends I get to go race for him, so it's cool. This was also the first year that Ewan was making like the CRG Nordum team, so I wanted to be his brand ambassador, and I wanted to be that guy that people look at and get more people under the tent and coach kids and go out and do test sessions with them. And I just wanted to be that. I wanted to be the grown up under the tent where I was looked at by these other kids. So I've done just that this year, and I really enjoy being under the tent and the whole facility, even back at work. I love working there, and it's a great gig I have. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I guess I'll ask both of you guys this, because you guys are both brand ambassadors to your own respect, right? Aden with the CRG Nordum guys and Alex with the TB card guys. Is that added pressure for you guys to perform? And I mean, it seems like this past weekend you guys dealt with that perfectly. So kind of just both of y'all, we'll start with Alex again and just walk us through what that's kind of been like, being a brand ambassador for a karting brand that's looking for a resurgence here in the States and looking for a resurgence to the regional market.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's pressure. I think it's honestly great to represent a brand and to show everybody that, we have a great package and a great go-kart. And it's also nice to be able to work with our new drivers as well. I think we've really come a long way with them. And I don't see it as pressure, but I just see it as, a great opportunity to work with new people and to learn as well. And because you can always learn as a driver. And I just feel like I'm just still getting better as each race progresses.
Aden?
Yeah, I mean, I want to do a quick shout out really quick. This woman is blowing up my phone, Federica.
I knew it, dude. I knew it.
Federica is Ewan's wife. That's my boss. So, I went on the mic in Amarillo, and I was shouting at everyone in the team, and I didn't say her name, and she blew me up and gave me some crap about it. Saizita. So anyway, shout out to Federica. She's the best. She gives us all the snacks under the tent. So so big shout out to her. She she does all the office work at work. So it wouldn't run without her. So big shout out to Federica. And back to your point.
Hold on, I'm actually going to interrupt you here. For those of you guys who don't know what Saizito means, that's what kind of Fede says to Aden. It means shut up in Italian whenever she gets tired of him. She's like, Saizito. So he's kind of telling Aden to shut up. But go ahead, Aden. Proceed.
Anyway, back to your point. Alex said it perfectly. It's it's not much pressure. It's totally an opportunity to to grow the brand as it used to be. I know you and ran the European team, and you would come over to the big races and run the European team in the States. And, he took a break from that, and then, giving me the opportunity to, bring that back. And, we'll have a big lineup in Vegas later this year. So, it's definitely cool to be behind the program, and especially working there. I see all the behind the scenes, and I see what goes into, owning a race team and running a race team. And, it's actually a really cool experience.
Yeah. And lastly, for you guys, I mean, you guys got some pretty cool trophies this past weekend, and I think Xander said it best. We don't have a karting Hall of Fame, but the Duffy, I think, is the closest thing that we have to that. Obviously, IKF being the oldest and the first, I should say, sanctioning body in the U.S. That kind of put on a really first kind of international race. So you guys kind of put yourselves along some of the all-time greats. Aden, we kind of joked about it. Your dad doesn't have a Duffy. You have two now. Alex, you kind of joked about it, saying you could retire from the sport now after doing it. You guys put yourselves alongside, the likes of Lynn Haddock. Maybe I would say that the karting GOAT, the greatest of all time in U.S. karting, and Duffy Livingston as well, who the trophy's named after, and you guys have both of the trophies. So I guess lastly off of here, what does it kind of mean to, as Aden's flexing all the gold that he's got here, but Alex only has one, which kind of
all right, bro.
Aden's I would say almost makes Alex's not look that surprising.
Alex is still pretty impressive. You can give Alex some credit.
Yeah, I'll give both of y'all. I mean, I'll give both of y'all credit where credit is due. But what did this past weekend kind of mean to be able to do that? I know Aden, you just went back to back, but what does the Duffy meaning you guys, and how important was that trophy to kind of cross the line in first?
Yeah, Alex? I've never really done an IKF Grands before, and I've always wanted to, and there was an opportunity for me to do it last year at Speed Sports, and didn't do it. I wanted to, and I thought the Duffy is the coolest trophy ever. I think Supernats and the Duffy are very similar. I want to win both, and this was the next on the bucket list with one USPKS, one Vice Pro Tour. So this was the next on the list, and I can retire happy now with the Duffy if I wanted to. So I'm excited to have it in my collection, and I'm thankful for TB for letting me race for them this year and get it. So yeah,
you still have to get your Supernat trophy though, Chuck.
Yeah, I know that's one left. One left. I know.
There you go. Yeah, then you can actually retire, but
then I can retire. Yeah.
At the young age of
not yet.
At the young age are you 18? You're 18? You see,
I'm 18.
The guy that we're going to bring on after you guys is 32, and he's still kicking ass. He's still winning races, and he's still doing all that. So the fact that you two boys are talking about retiring is kind of making me mad. So we'll leave that at that. But Aden, what's kind of this trophy, I guess, meant to you? I mean, you won it last year. I think your dad told you of how special it was. And, what's kind of this year kind of meant for you winning it in a field of 30, of 30, you're probably the best in the nation.
Yeah, definitely. Winning it last year meant a lot. I didn't really understand the importance of it until after the weekend. My parents explained to me, my uncle explained it to me. And so that was really cool. And then going into this weekend, I wasn't really, I was obviously looking to get it again. But, with the outstanding pace we had, it was pretty, it was pretty obvious that it was going to happen. And, going back to back. And last year I missed out on the Eagle. I raced both classes. I raced KA and LO206 senior. And, I got second in both in qualifying. So I missed out on the Eagle last year. And then, I beat Austin Garrison last year in KA senior and, got third in got third in 206. So it was cool to get some redemption this year. I got the Duffy last year, so that was another reason I didn't really see the need to go in KA again, just because I already had it. So, it was good to get some redemption, and, especially how fast we were in 206. It felt really good.
Yeah, so big congrats to you guys, and I'll kind of leave this time for you guys to kind of promote yourselves. Who do you guys got coming up? I know Aden's racing this weekend. Alex, I know you've got a busy schedule in Dallas, coaching and whatnot. So I'll kind of leave this time for you guys to kind of promote yourselves as we come to the end of y'all's segment. Alex?
Yeah, upcoming, hopefully TSR is coming soon, and with TB Kart South with Kyle and Allison Racing Engines, and lots of flying for me as well. Hopefully finish up my flight school soon.
Oh, that's right.
And get that commercial license started, and it's gonna be fun. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Aden?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going. I leave tomorrow morning for Ohio, Cincinnati, a track that I love, and last year was the first time there, and I was really fast, and it was one of the best venues and best facilities I've been to. So that, and then I'll probably be going to Dallas to do the Triple Crown race the weekend before TSRS DKC. So get some good testing. Testing's always makes you faster the next week, so that'll be important. And then we finally have a break, so it'll be good. And I couldn't thank you and Jeffrey and Federica. Couldn't thank them too enough for everything that they've been putting on, and this incredible season we've had so far.
Yeah, well, I know all of us here appreciate you boys coming on, and congrats on your Duffies. And I guess I'll see you guys pretty soon. Aden, I'll probably see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow night.
Track, so I'll probably see you tomorrow. Alex,
Yep.
I'll probably see you in a couple of weeks. But thank you guys for coming on, and congrats again. That's Aden Rudolph and Alex Stanfield, your 2024 IKF Grand National champions in your senior classes. So
thank you guys. See you later.
Thank you guys very much for coming on. So there you guys have it from Aden Rudolph and Alex Stanfield as I put us back in this group layout. But from all of us here, we still have a very long show coming up. So make sure you stick with us. Billy Musgrave is on next, but we take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we go straight into Billy Musgrave.
Colin, I need a new 219 chain. I need a 77 tooth roof sprocket. I need some more chain lube, and I need it probably as soon as tomorrow. Dude, are you even listening? We need this to run this weekend.
Want anything else?
What do you mean?
I already got it in the Car and Acceleration Kart Racing's online store, bro. All orders over $200 get free shipping.
Oh, throw in a set of tires.
Done.
Everything you need, all in one place, and shipped to your door for free on orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Shop AKR.com.
Well, there you guys have it from Shop AKR, and myself and Alex here. Emory getting a water bottle, so he'll be right back here with us. But you heard from those two boys who had a really, really good, end of the month of July and start to the month of August winning the Duffies. And congrats there to Alex and Aden again. I mean, hearing from those two guys is always super cool. And, I see them a lot, obviously, because I'm from Texas. You boys probably don't see them as much, only when we go to the national stuff. But, I mean, how cool is that for those kind of guys getting the Duffy there last weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Duffy, again, I think Aden kind of did a really good job of describing it, because when you first go into the race, you see maybe the entry numbers, you see kind of how it gets spread, and you might not think as much of it as a historical event. But if you look back at the history of the Duffy and almost 70 years of the IKF Grand Nationals, it's the oldest national race in the United States. A lot of big names, like you mentioned, Kaleb Haddock winning it numerous times. A lot of races over the years. It's been in California in recent years. I think it's nice to see the field size really come up in the last couple of years as it's moved to Speed Sports, and then most recently in Amarillo this year. So I think that's been really cool to see kind of the growth of IKF. I think next year, hopefully we can see even more people, even with it going kind of back to the West Coast. And I mean, I really do think it's a hallmark of American karting. And so to see Aden and Alex really kind of take that end, and to have those big names kind of winning races at the IKF Grand Nationals, it's a special event, and I think it was really cool to see this weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely. Alex, I know you were kind of talking about it. You were eyeing on I guess, starting your IKF Grand Nationals campaign back in 2021 and weren't able to get it done. But I know you're probably kicking yourself about it now at some point after seeing those pretty cool trophies.
Well, yeah, the biggest reason why I never made it out there in recent years was, location-wise, it was hard to go so far west. Good to see it come to Texas back-to-back years. And yeah, like Emory said, I think one of the biggest points, besides big names winning this race, it's a legendary race. It's basically the Hall of Fame game of karting, right? But it's more of the entry count is getting up again. It was in a bit of a slump, I'd say, in recent years, but definitely two of the highest entry counts we've had in the past decade or more at the IKF Grands, and with big names constantly going to the event, it's only going to grow it again. And so I'm here for the resurgence of the IKF Grands. It is one of the biggest races. Stanfield said that he compared it to winning a SuperNats trophy. That's big words out of a top level driver. So yeah, always good to see. And then two friends of the show winning a Duffy in the same weekend. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty really cool for those guys. And I was announcing the IKF Grand Nationals last year at Speed Sports when it came here to Houston, obviously from where I'm from, and that was cool to see. McKeithen obviously came away with that one. Garrison and Aden fought all the way to the last corner, and Aden ended up getting the better of Garrison there in the end. But it's cool, and I'm glad that we finally got to live stream it, to share it with more people. But yeah, from my understanding, I think it is probably going to move back west, and I guess next couple of years. But speaking of moving out west, we go to a guy who's actually from the West Coast, Billy Musgrave, joining us here tonight, Mr. Factory Karts himself. Billy, you've had, I guess, a great month of July, 2 back-to-back national wins, and it's kind of been a while. We wanted to have you on last week. I know we got busy, but how's it been, man?
It's been busy. Oh man, too many phone calls, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I'm sorry to add kind of one more onto your list today. I just kind of try to kind of walk you through the show today, and sorry to add one more, I guess, onto your list today. But good to have you on as always.
Oh, pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, it's been about a year kind of since we talked to you, so a lot has changed for you. You started making your way more out east, kind of with a lot more dealers resurging this year. I'm a Texas guy. Jake French out here in Texas has his team for the Texas Sprint Racing Series. The JMF boys up in Canada. I know your longtime sponsor, Bo Dozier, as well in AMP, and a lot more kind of factory kart dealers starting to pop up. So just kind of walk me through what's kind of put it all together for you to race this year, from being a West Coast guy to being able to come so far east at the Star Championship Series, SKUSA. And I haven't seen you guys out at USPKS yet, but we have seen you guys out here for all that stuff. So kind of how does that all kind of come together for you this year?
Honestly, it's all been part of the plan. So I mean, last year was kind of the start of our first big push. So last year was kind of the start of us pushing across the country, opening up new dealers, going to new tracks, and really, after fine tuning the chassis for a few years back here on the West Coast and in California. Last year, 2023 was kind of our moment to start pushing things across the country. And you always learn more going to so many different tracks and putting the karts in more people than just myself and our local guys. So, throughout 2023, we opened up, I think Oztech Racing in Atlanta Motorsports Park with Frank Baldozier. And then I have Source Engines up in Wisconsin at the Badger Kart Club. I'm working with John Crow right now on doing some stuff at Newcastle, Indiana. I've actually been working with the MPG boys, Reyes Labrante and Chase Jones and Billy Vincent. They've been pushing the mini shifter program real hard the last 6 to 8 months. And then, I got some guys up in Idaho, Tim Ross, Rhenium Racing, Jason, GR2 Motorsports in Texas, Jake French, JFR Racing in Texas. It's been busy. And then, the JMF guys with the big, putting the big driver development program together, and, having us be a part of that, and, having me work with those drivers specifically to, work on chassis development and kind of breed, hopefully a new generation of Canadian racing drivers that have a lot better understanding of, chassis geometry and what goes into making a race car fast. And then, we still have a few more exciting announcements coming soon with some big race teams and some other stuff that will probably be announced by the time SuperNats rolls around. But it's just been a hell of a lot of work. I mean, we can't go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. So it's just taken us, about a solid year and a half of nonstop work, kind of just grinding and getting go-karts out and about to the market, and always learning what's working and what's not working. A little bit of testing and development never stops, but a lot of it's been the quality control and always making sure that everything going out the door is as good as I want it, which is, according to these guys, a never-ending process. But hey, we're taking it one step at a time, and yeah, I couldn't be more happy with where we're at.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I guess that's also kind of one of the big things, right? And whatever you kind of put it at, it's kind of quality over quantity. So it's you probably don't have a lot of dealers like either OTK or whatnot, but the quality of your stuff at least is probably looking good for your side of things and something that you're happy about and happy to push. So that's also really good to see. But some exciting news, I guess, coming out of California as well. You guys are about to have your first race at K1. So what does that kind of mean for you guys out west?
It's huge. We are still waiting. Unfortunately, it sounds like no practice for the month of August, but the race is confirmed. So I think the first day on track will be August 23rd at K1 Circuit, the Friday practice for the Pro Kart Challenge doubleheader. So yeah, the phones have started ringing. People are starting to get excited. Still a lot of people that don't believe it's actually going to open, but I can't imagine why they would think that. But no, it's been a long 2-year wait since the unfortunate closing of California Speedway. So, we kind of lost our home track there for a moment. Luckily, Troy Adams has been, super hospitable and has opened us, pretty much embraced the Southern California karting community with open arms. Has been super accommodating. We did, surprisingly a lot of testing done there. And it's been super successful. So just kind of excited to be able to add, another track to our, West Coast region. And then it even looks like we're going to get another track here pretty soon at Spring Mountain over in Vegas. So, fingers crossed, things are looking pretty good for the West Coast in the near future.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know these boys as well have questions for you, and I don't want to hog you out on myself here. So I'll give you over to Emory and Alex as well, who I know have a lot to ask you about kind of how your year has been so far.
Yeah, I'll start here. Sorry about that, Billy. We talked to a lot of drivers, factory drivers, no pun intended, but they help develop the go-karts. They talk back to the team or talk to the mechanics, say here's what needs to be developed on the chassis, or here's what we need to fix during a weekend, or go back to the factory and fix it for throughout the season. But for a guy that is owner, R&D, driver, mechanic, you're a jack of all trades. You are the Swiss Army knife of go-karting. What is like the R&D like behind the scenes of a guy who literally has to go and develop it himself?
It is never ending and a lot of work. I mean, it's, from standing over my welders and making sure all the little tabs and the fixtures are set up right. I mean, it's, you're talking about frames, you're talking about fractions of a millimeter can make or break, the way a chassis handles. So, it's at this stage in the game, it's my responsibility to understand every step in the manufacturing process and how each of those steps affects the end result and affects the end product. So, understanding, where things can be streamlined and where things, we really need to pay attention to. And I could go on for hours and hours about all the little details that goes into a go-kart frame, but you'd be surprised at some of the tiny little things on the chassis that make a world of difference when it comes to lap time. So that's kind of where I come in, and I just kind of make sure that every step along the way, it's up to my standards, and always trying to make things better. So, I mean, I have a notebook of literally every single frame that we've ever built. Every single frame that comes off the jig goes onto basically a flat table that gets measured. So I have notes dating back to, basically February of 2020 all the way to now with every chassis and every measurement. And, and just so we always have that database of knowledge carrying forward. And that's how, you can iterate so quickly. And what kind of helps us is, we can make changes so fast on the jig and put the thing down the assembly line. And in a matter of hours, we can have a full go-kart, ready to drive and get down to the track and go testing. So, I forget what the exact original question is, but it is, as far as the amount of work and, the attention to detail, it's incredibly, time consuming.
How often are you changing things? It gets off the assembly line, and then do you have time to test it before a big race weekend, or are you kind of like throwing things at the wall and hoping it sticks a little bit?
Not so much. So, I'm fortunate throughout my karting career. I've been able to work with a lot of the big names. I was able to work with, Tonini and Cavacuti and Armando Fellini and a couple of other big chassis designers. So I learned a lot of what I know now through those Italian chassis designers. And then also a lot of the guys that kind of helped me, as I was kind of growing up, back in the day, Travis Irving, Darren Elliott, taught me a lot about go-kart handling and, what goes into making a chassis fast and what you're trying to feel as a driver around the track. So as far as that side of it, it's not so much throwing stuff at a wall. It's been a very iterative and step-by-step process of trying to find exactly what we want. And of course, you're going to have moments where, we try things, like, oh, you want more traction or you want more stability or, you want more grip, which everybody always wants. And so, you try to go softer or stiffer, but it's something when you build a chassis, I always yell at my drivers. It's like, there's no such thing as grip. I can't sprinkle some grip onto the go-kart for you. I can make things softer, stiffer, and change leverage and stability and ratios. But, at the end of the day, it's just a giant spring. And all we're trying to do is control that spring rate and basically how much leverage you're pulling in and out of the tire. So, I forget where I was going with that. But I had a good point somewhere along the line.
No, it was.
You got to remind me what your
good
question.
Oh man.
No,
Yeah.
all good. It was great insight, because it's just tough we never get to talk to somebody who's in that R&D sort of space, who develops his own chassis. And so I just find it interesting on my end to kind of say, like you said, it's really a calculated process. It's not a lot of, I hope this works. You guys have a set plan throughout all of your development, and so it's really cool to hear.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Oh man,
Billy froze here on us a little bit. So we'll wait for him to come back. But I mean, you guys heard how much kind of goes into the entire development process. Yeah, we got you back.
Welcome.
My internet cut out there for a minute. I'm back now.
All good. And I have to say, I think Billy probably has the best camera quality out of any other guest that we've had on this show, probably. So it's crispy.
You like that? I set this up just for you guys.
It's crispy.
That's awesome.
We love it. This is great. So yeah, that's great. But next, I guess for me,
I
Billy.
remember what I was going to say now. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I remember what I was going to say for. So anyways, you're talking about testing and stuff like that, and I actually had a really good point to make. So something we learned real fast, and something I even learned back in the day, is like, it's really easy to make a go-kart fast at Adams or Apex or even California Speedway on a Wednesday morning or on a Friday practice or even on a Sunday practice. What's really difficult is to make a go-kart that's fast at a track like Newcastle or a track like Cincinnati or Orlando, when you put 200, 250, 300 go-karts with different tire compounds, and now you're trying to be fast Saturday, Sunday in that different rubber in those weird conditions. And it's just a fact of the way the kart racing is. Like, we really only get to see those conditions a few times a year. Now with the rise of, the Pro Tour has kind of been the whatever we call like the pinnacle the last, 10, 15 years I've been in the sport. But now you have more races like Stars, more races like USPKS. So we have a few more races a year where we get these kind of weird rubber conditions. And, like you see, like most of the tracks don't rubber up anymore. So it's not like you can build a track for Sunday and like set the car up and know you're going to be free and, all this rubber is going to get built up throughout the weekend. Like, the tires we use nowadays don't really lay rubber like they used to. So typically the tracks start to get a little bit greasy and a little bit, slimy, and it changes the way that the chassis feels. So, you could be the fastest kart on Friday and, not really be running much different on the lap time Saturday and Sunday. But the way the chassis is handling and the way it's cutting through the rubber or the grease is completely different. So that's been something that, unfortunately you can only go learn 4, 5, 6 times a year. And so it's been a slow process, a very iterative process. So like the chassis we're driving this year, geometry wise, is identical to what we basically developed and I brought to Newcastle last year. And so I kind of made a point, like we were fast over 1 lap last year, not so much long run pace. And then this year, we had much, much better long run pace. Maybe me personally, I struggle a little bit more with the 2-lap qualifying format, but I don't mind it. But, like I said, with a go-kart, you can never really have everything all the time. You're always picking and choosing your battles of what you want to be really good at. And if you want to have, a wide tuning window and kind of cap yourself, or a little bit skinnier tuning window that's more adaptable. There's so many different ways to phrase it, but long story short, I think that kind of answers what you were asking.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Emory, I think you're probably about to ask the same thing I was about to ask, so I'll give it here to you.
Yeah, I was gonna talk. I think this is probably gonna be different from what you were gonna ask. But
Probably.
yeah, you mentioned though talking about how the tires nowadays don't really rubber in, and it's tricky to make a kart go fast given the kind of weird conditions that you see at a national event. And I mean, you've been in the sport long enough at this point. You've kind of seen the evolution, really the Pro Tour in general. I mean, we were talking on the broadcast last week. It's been 15 years of the SKUSA Pro Tour. It was the 10th race at Newcastle. The very first year that they ran SummerNats at Newcastle, you won. But that's kind of on the basis of my question, where like you kind of seen the sport evolve in that sense, and you've also seen, I guess, kind of a difference in how the tires rubber up. Like, how different is conditions now compared to 10 years ago, especially on Pro Tour, where you no longer have as many shifter classes, you no longer have as many sticky rubber classes, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So with the diminishing X30 classes and the rise in the popularity of the KAs, it's a lot more hard compound tires versus the really two classes now that run the soft or medium compound. So it's definitely changed the way.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost him again. Oh man, we've had some technical difficulties
This
all
is
night.
brutal.
The technical difficulties are crazy right now. I
Yeah.
think we lost Kaleb once or twice. I think.
Hey,
see
you
if-
lost me once. If I
once.
leave, I literally just went on and turned my light on, but I probably had the same issue Billy's having right now with my internet kind of cutting out there for a second. But wait for him to kind of come back here and we'll see. But I mean, Billy's, I think, the greatest guy to have on the show when it comes down to knowing what it's like from a team owner, I guess, chassis designer, and all that other fun stuff as well. So kind of having to pick this guy's head is really interesting for all of us, because he's one of the older guys, I guess, in the sport. And at 32 years old, he's still ripping, he's still kicking ass. So hearing from him is I think, the best thing that we can all do to learn. And I'm actually going to pull up a comment from earlier. Here it is. He said, "You kids," yes, I said kids, "are having so much fun. You're the future. Carry on." So, I mean, we are kids. I'm 20 years old. Emery's 21. Alex is 20 as well. So
shout out Rick Folks, by the way. He's
Yeah.
also a karting legend. So cool to have him watching the show. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is great, but I mean, we are kids, and having, I guess you say, an adult, I would say an actual adult like Billy on the show is pretty cool. And I think Josh Herman said it himself. Billy is a man, glad to support factory carts from the beginning. Happy to hear all the progress,
Yeah.
Billy. So yeah, great to hear from Billy, and hopefully we'll have him on here pretty soon. But again, this is it's been good to hear from him, and hopefully we can get him back here in a couple of moments time. If not, then I guess we'll bring on James here for a second, and we'll talk to James here for a little bit. But go ahead, Emory.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the coolest things I was going to ask Billy at some point is when you look at how he was able to kind of manage 2023, right? He had the win in Orlando, which people have been saying, oh, the 175 this, 175 that. But it was still a beautifully managed race from Billy. Almost wins the Pro Tour Championship. He comes back this year. Honestly, the factory kart operation has grown quite significantly in the last year and a half when it comes to the amount of teams that they have. And not just that, but also the amount of customers between the JMF stuff going on and some of the work in Canada. We've seen the Baldozier effort in the Southeast kind of taking form at AMP. And then also, as well as that, what Jake French has going on in Texas, we saw that really come on at the end of the year. It's kind of, as Billy comes back in, it's kind of like sort of a mixture of Billy's own personal racing success working in parallel with the factory kart success also going up at the same time, which you don't always see that in karting. I'm not going to say the operations. There have been times, where the owner part of it's going really well and the driver part of it takes a back seat, or vice versa, where you're driving really well, customers aren't really coming. So, Billy, I mean, I guess we had the discussion earlier about kind of the tire compound and the track evolution, but this last year, so it's been great for you on the track. Off the track seems like it's going well as well. How would you kind of assess the operational development that you've had over the last year or so?
It's been huge. It's been a struggle here in the summer when it's 104 outside right now, and my phone just overheated and shut off, so I apologize.
Good.
But no, it's been, it's learning the business side and, growing and developing is absolutely. I mean, managing inventory, especially, when we're trying to scale up, it's a never ending process, sourcing vendors and trying to get the right vendors and get the right parts, the right prices and the right timelines. It is a never ending battle. And something that I'm still in the last 5-6 days has been nonstop, computer work, trying to get all our new systems integration and processes in place so we can kind of be more streamlined in the future. Take more orders, deliver, go-karts faster, all that kind of stuff. So right now it's kind of like we've been cracking the throttle the last year and a half and kind of creeping up, grabbing a couple gears. And now over the next, 6 to 12 months, we're going to try to really be kicking into high gear and holding this thing wide open. So you're going to start seeing a lot more factory carts show up at all your local tracks, with the new engine program we got going on with Yamaha. We're getting ready to release, basically our full lineup right now. So we're getting ready to fulfill a lot of orders. Finally, parts are starting to trickle in. A lot of stuff we've been waiting on. But yeah, like I said, it's really been just a never-ending battle. But I'm super fortunate to have a great group of people with me. I got a great group of guys in the back right now, a couple of lifelong friends that have helped us get to where we are at right now. That I could not be here without them. And it's been, it's a lot of work, like I said, especially in the summertime, trying to build 100 and some degrees in the back, and we're just pouring sweat, trying to make sure the frames don't rust while we touch them. It's that bad sometimes, but no, I mean, we have a great time, and I think to be able to say we literally build go-karts as our profession and for a living, it's something I couldn't have dreamed of 10 years ago, 15 years ago when I got started in this. But yeah, to be where we're at right now, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. And I mean, take us back, to kind of 15 years ago, you're kind of, starting, I would say your career in karting. I would say you started about whenever you were 15, if I'm not mistaken. Is that about right? And you came from kind of motocross as well. So kind of walk us through that, what made the switch. I know a lot of guys back then were kind of switching with the Honda engines and kind of very similar to what you guys knew how to work on. So kind of take us back to that and what kind of, I know was it you and your dad who kind of came over to karting and kind of did it. So walk us through that. I guess you and your dad kind of packing up shop on the motocross side of things and like, let's go rip some go-karts here.
So what's funny is it didn't happen all at once. Started racing motocross at like 4 years old with my dad. And it was always for fun. You know what I'm saying? He was never like, super aggressive, trying to be the next, whatever, Jeremy McGrath or, Ricky Carmichael. It was always just kind of, have fun, take it seriously, enjoy it for what it is, but, don't go crazy, don't get hurt, all that kind of stuff. And so I did that for, 10 years or so until I was like 13, 14 years old. 15 years old, started getting pretty fast, kind of made it to like the local pro scene when I was, around 15, 16 years old. But we at that point been riding, all our local tracks and stuff like that for so many years. Like there's a point where you have a little bit of burnout. And so for us, it got to the point where on a motocross bike, like it's never a matter of when or if you're going to get hurt. It's just a matter of when, no matter how safe you try to ride, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Through the years, I've had a lot of friends with a lot of injuries and, some even worse. So, we got to the point kind of where it was like, you'd go out to a race and, you put your helmet on and you go to the starting line and, you'd go to attack the track and go to really like find that limit where you're on the edge, but you could never ride comfortably at 100%. So, because you knew you were going to crash, and especially with like the state of the tracks back then, things were getting a little sketchy, super slippery, just, it was a gnarly time, in the transition from 2 strokes to 4 strokes in motorcycles right around that era. So like I said, we started getting a little burnt out on the motocross stuff because you'd show up to a race and you'd go to race and you'd be riding around at like 80%, 85%, and it's like, it's cool. It's still cool. It's still a lot of fun. But we were still looking for something where, like, you could go to 100%, go to 101%, but not end up in the hospital. So, my dad had this idea, like shifter carts for the longest time, and he could never really find somebody that would sell him a shifter cart. So, the original story is he walked into like 4 different, one day he finally got the bug and he's like, I want to go buy a shifter cart. So he went to 4 different shops in Southern California, and he walked into all the shops, and not a single one of them would sell him a shifter cart. So all of them told him, you can't handle it. It's going to be too fast. You're going to hurt yourself. You need to start in a 100cc or you need to start in a 4-stroke. The normal stuff everybody. Like, dude, I don't really care about going fast. I just want to bang gears and go fast around a racetrack and have some fun. And like the one guy he walked into, he was about to give up. He walked into Tom Kutscher's shop when he owned Extreme Karting. This is back in like 07.
Yeah.
And Tom's like, "Oh, you're a shifter kart guy. Oh, badass. Or you motocross guy. Here you go. Here's this, so old Sodi shifter kart for like, I don't even know, $2,500 or something like that. Boom, boom, done. Okay, cool. Drove it the first time, and my dad was like, "Oh, this is awesome." So then, the story is, we knew a friend of a friend, Travis Irving, sold me one of his old top karts with a leopard on it. We took it out to Moran. Moran was, I don't know if anybody in the audience remembers Moran Raceway, but I got to drive there for a couple months right before it shut down. But it was like the greatest track anybody's ever driven. It was like Newcastle on steroids. It was, and so I drove this like 125 Leopard thing a couple times, and it blew up. And we're like, okay, whatever. At the end of the day, my dad was like, "Oh, just hop in the shifter cart and go take it for a couple laps." I drove that, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I want this. Like I don't want to drive a tag. I just want shifter. That's all I want to do." So I'd say all that to say, like, for the next 3-4 years, we just drove shifter carts for fun. Like, we did local races, we did some LAKC races, some San Diego SDKA races, a couple Pro Kart Challenge races back when, they were just starting up and it was just shifter carts. And it was just a thing we did on the fun on the side. And the primary thing we were still racing was motocross. So fast forward a couple more years to like 2012, I was getting pretty fast in the shifter cart, but still focused primarily on motocross. I was like a pretty good local pro at the time. And I break my femur. So after breaking my femur, obviously I don't want to get back on a motorcycle because it's a little fragile. So I kind of stick with the shifter cart thing. I was fortunate enough. I had a rod in my leg. 4 weeks later, I was in a cart driving. 5 weeks later, I was racing. And from like August, or really like July until October, I just drove shifter carts, like, pretty much every weekend, 2-3 times a week. And I was healthy enough. We showed up at SuperNats that year, 2012. I tried to enter in the S1 class, and, Tom and Patty were like, "Who are you?" Like, "No, you can't race pro. You have to race semi-pro." So entered semi-pro, had a great race, and ended up winning the race. And that was on the drive home. We started getting phone calls to do driver coaching and build CRM 125 engines, which we knew a lot about from the motocross days. So that's kind of how the whole MRC thing started. That's how we started our business in karting. And then, fast forward, 12 more years after that, here we are, making our own frames and trying to bring the American-made, dream back.
Hey, that's I really, that's probably one of the most badass stories I think I've heard from Whatnot. So I was kind of really cool to hear from your side. So that's I think on the phone call earlier today, I told you that I wanted to hear the Billy Musgrave lore, and I think I got just that. So thank you for that, Billy.
Anytime.
Boys, I know y'all got a couple more questions as well. So
yeah, Billy, I just wanted to kind of go back because you mentioned that you kind of went into the Pro Kart Challenge stuff when it was back in all shifter, and in recent months you've kind of been working with Yamaha. You've got the FZ 65, FZ 85, and then obviously the 125 and the 250, working through them. And this is something that I guess kind of on a lower scale we've talked about kind of internally and kind of with different people over the years about sort of bringing cadet junior shifter racing back, even if it's not on a large scale, having kind of teaching kids how to drive with front brakes, teaching kids kind of the process of gear shifting. Kind of what inspired you to kind of make that move towards kind of working with Yamaha on that package? And then also kind of what are some of your plans when it comes to developing, maybe possibly racing with it in the future?
Yeah, so the part of our core business plan from when we started Factory Karts, like we knew we wanted to have an engine partner, and obviously we're diehard shifter kart guys. I mean that's what we love. That's what we want to see be successful. I want to give the experience of driving a shifter kart into as many people's hands as we can. You know what I'm saying? And even if a lot of these people never go racing, I just want the sport to be a lot more accessible. The product to be a lot easier to work on, a lot simpler to find parts for, etc. So from the beginning, from even 2020, when the Factory Karts, idea and brand was incepted, like, we knew we wanted to work with a company, where we could bring back kind of that stock moto style shifter kart engine package to where, it doesn't take a wizard to tune the carburetor like it does for a KZ. And, it doesn't, take having to replace the piston, 3 or 4 times a weekend to make it through a race. So, like if you look at a national level, like I've known the writing's been on the wall the last couple of years because, really since COVID, let's say, and I know COVID had its own, ramifications throughout the karting market and throughout power sports in general. But like if you look at, throughout the 10-year history, 15-year history of stock moto to the last 4 or 5 years of KZ/175 of, Italian motor, kart racing, like at a professional level, the numbers have stayed the same. Roughly there's always going to be about 20 to 30 professional shifter kart drivers across the series. But my biggest takeaway was like last year at SuperNats. Last year at SuperNats, we had the most pro shifters in SuperNats history, which is awesome. It's phenomenal. Unfortunately, we had the least amount of American shifter kart pilots in SuperNats history. So that's not good for the sport. You know what I mean? It's great that we can hold a race with worldwide attention and get that much talent from all over the globe. It's phenomenal. It's awesome. I don't want to change that. What I want to change, what I want to bring in is we need to make that level of shifter kart racing more accessible to our North American, karting market. So that's the whole kind of idea behind what we're trying to do is, starting with the 65 and 85, I want to bring in a generation of drivers who, don't get bored with the mini Swift or the 4-stroke stuff. Like, if you can see what an 8 to 10-year-old kid does on a YZ65 or 85 motorcycle, it's impressive. When they're jumping 90-foot triples at, 10 years old, it's like they can handle it. You know what I'm saying? So they can handle a shifter kart that's a hell of a lot safer than a motorcycle. And when we've proven that, we really did a lot of testing the last year and a half, putting as many kids as we can with as many different skill sets as we could to get into the little mini shifters and kind of see and gauge how quick do they pick it up, what are their struggle points, what do we need to really focus on and tackle to make as easy as possible a transition in the future. And honestly, we were blown away how quick, you put a 9-year-old kid in it and 10 laps later, the kid's freaking banging gears better than my 50-year-old buddy who's raced motocross his whole life. Like, it's hilarious. But yeah, so anyways, kind of going back to the grand plan was, in the beginning, we tried to partner with KTM. Post-COVID, KTM had so many, manufacturing struggles, and they really still do. And their sales have been off the charts. They're like, man, we don't have any engines. We can't spare anything. Production-wise, everything's already sold for the next 6 years. So we worked with some old motocross contacts to get in touch with Yamaha of Japan. Basically worked out a really, bulletproof plan to kind of bring their engines into karting. Basically we had to give them a ton of research on the whole karting market, what our plans were, how we were going to use the engines. And yeah, they kind of approved everything about 2.5 years ago. And so now it just takes this much time to get that ball rolling, to get the engines in, to get all the parts. I mean, there's so many little parts you have to manufacture and get dialed in, from, having our own sprockets made for the right chain pitch, to the J-arms, to motor mounts, pipes, silencers, so many things that just go into making. It's not like you just buy a motor off the shelf and, go put it on a go-kart. But we're finally kind of at that tipping point to where we can, start pushing go-karts out the door. So it's a pretty exciting time right now.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it seems kind of quite interesting, the entire thing that you're doing with the entire Yamaha package. I know you've kind of mentioned it to me very often whenever we talk, and I go and hang out with you guys at the JMF tent. So that's all interesting, and as well, I think one of the other things that with, I guess, the SKUSA Pro Tour coming into an end, Stars also nearing that kind of end for the year as well. I want to kind of go back to the format as well for the year. The proposed format that we have, the split format, with I believe was hot pit practices on the Friday afternoon. You go to Saturday, you get one qualifying, the super, obviously the 2 laps super pole, and then you go into one pre-final, and then a big main event, which is longer and a little bit lengthier than what we were used to last year. And obviously at the start of the year, you kind of struggle with mechanicals and whatnot, but what are kind of your thoughts on how the format, I guess, turned out this year with 2 heat races in both Stars and in SKUSA with that, and then the pre-final?
Now you're getting me excited. That's what I wanted to talk about. I keep telling Xander, you got to stop acquiescing to these guys' requests. Stick with your original plan. Honestly, like, we need, as a sport and as professional drivers, like, Kremers was the perfect example last week, and this dude shows up with no practice Saturday morning as the fastest guy in warm-up, fastest guy in the first quali session. Like, dude, we're professional drivers. Like, we don't need 17 practice sessions. That's first and foremost. Like, if you don't practice, you go practice on your own time. Second off, like, as a sport, we need to make it as accessible as possible. So if it's a sacrifice we have to make as pro drivers, that we don't have as much practice, or we don't have as much, can't test 10 different engines in 2 days, like, okay, like we got to take that sacrifice for the betterment of the sport is really my main point. So I think your original format, the idea of having, 1 or 2, 30-minute sessions, of having like an open pit, and it's, it's for testing and development. It's really cool to be able to go do like a wheel test back to back or an axle change back to back. But it's so much more than that. It's what you guys are able to do with Kart Chaser, bringing cameras into that paddock, bringing cameras into that pit lane, let's say. And while the mechanics are changing an axle or changing tires or wheels or whatever on the chassis, ride heights, caster, you can name a zillion different things, having a camera in the driver's face, having a microphone in the driver's face, and, having an interview with them and having them explain through the camera to the viewer that has no idea, like, when to change an axle. Like, why would you change an axle? Like, if it's straight, why would you ever change it? You know what I'm saying? Like, or ride height, why would they change that? Like, to be able to better, give insight, and I have a big belief, like, part of the reason why Formula One is so successful is that technical side. Like, people want to learn. People want to understand, that it's more than just a box with 4 wheels and an engine. They want to understand, like, why is that guy changing 3 things on his car right now? And when he goes out on the track, is it faster or slower? So being able to have that literal, tangible, in-your-face interaction in the pit, I think would do wonders. And I know we're going to have to jump through hoops. I know it's going to be a pain in the butt to try to make it work. But I think for the betterment of the sport and to have a better sellable package, for Kart Chaser and for the multiple different series and brands, and for even my brand as myself, to be able to, have a race team and go out and attract sponsors and to have this sellable package that I can go show them is huge. So that brings me back to the our new heat race format, to where, we warm up at like 11 a.m. We have our first heat race at 2 and our second heat race at 5. Like, it sucks. I mean, it's terrible. Like one, the original format, like I said, it let the pro drivers, in my opinion, focus on the amateur drivers, focus on the KAs, the minis, the rest of the pit, give them a lot of attention, one-on-one time. And then basically, in the afternoon, you can drop it, go to your own program, focus, get your stuff done. And then when the morning comes back around, you can go back to being a driver coach and helping out the rest of the team. So like I said, the added value that a professional driver can bring to a program, to me, was through the roof. Now with the format as it is, it's back to kind of being in no man's land. So like I said, I think as pro drivers, we kind of need to sack up. If it's 2 back-to-back heat races with a 5-minute break, let's go. Like, what are we going to complain about that, we get too tired racing too close together? Like, come on, like, do a heat race, come right back in, check your tire pressure, make a small change, and go right back out. I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, I think the goal needs to be a contained product. You know what I mean? If that's a 1 to 2 to 3 hour chunk of time slot with as much action-packed, drama, storylines, the stuff you guys are really doing a good job with. I think, that's what we need to go after. So, and I keep telling Xander, don't let these guys drag you back into the Stone Age. I'll be behind you guys. Everybody keeps complaining and getting their way. So I'll be the guy that complains this time. And I want to keep pushing this thing forward and, see what cool stuff we can do in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you really had a good point on developing drivers and stuff like that. And I think we've all kind of also mentioned this, the fact that we all believe that we practice heat even a little bit too much and whatnot, and making the sport a little bit more accessible, especially with test weekends, and going there a week before and testing. And the fact that I think you say that, are we going to get too tired? And I don't want to bring this up, but you being one of the older guys in the class, and especially the shifter class, some may think that with age, Billy would get tired quicker than all these other guys, but you're just as fit. And that's all the work that you do outside of the track. That's not work that you do on a test weekend. That's not work that you do on a race weekend. You need to go into that race weekend already ready to race and all ready to bang gears and all ready to get out there and do all that physicality. So I do understand kind of where all that stuff is coming from. And I've heard the other side as well of why people think, you know, it wouldn't work. But, you know, we're at a point now where we're very far along in our sport that we're still kind of figuring out. And there's going to be growing pains. You know, myself, Emory, and Alex said it. There's going to be growing pains. But if we want to kind of get to the point where either motocross is now or where any other sport is now, we're going to have to kind of evolve at some point.
I have to take those leaps of faith. And like I said, I mean, it's anytime there's a struggle, like I said, the whole goal is we need a bite-sized product that is sellable, that is entertaining. And I think, you know, the coverage is entertaining. The racing has been phenomenally entertaining, both the single speed and the shifter kart stuff this year. It's dramatic. There's action going on from lap 1 to lap 20, the storylines. You guys are doing a great job, you know, getting, you know, like I said, bringing in the personality behind the scenes. So it's not just a bunch of helmets, like I said, on boxes on wheels with different colors driving around a go-kart. And I think that's something a lot of like the European FIA coverage struggles with. It's just a bunch of go-karts. There's not a lot of the personal drama. Like I said, you got to get people invested. I said, once you guys have a good sellable product, we just got to work on the formatting. But what that allows us to do as a factory, as the race teams, as drivers, to be able to go out and get sponsors and really push this whole sport to the next level, it's so important. So don't give up. Like, don't let these guys pull you back into the Stone Age. Keep pushing forward, man. You guys, you'll have all our support for life.
Yeah, and Billy, I really think you've done enough promoting on for us. So I guess to end things off here with you, you know, we've loved having you on, and I think whenever we have whenever us three young guys, you know, have a guy with your wisdom on the show, we always kind of gain 5 years of experience in our sport. But you promoted us enough. I'll give you some time to kind of promote yourself here and what you got coming up, and whatever you want to do. The floor is yours, man.
Hey, thank you. So yeah, right now the target is, you know, really with our FZ engine program. So we're basically sending mini shifters out the door like crazy right now. 85s, 125s, pretty much all getting up and getting sent out as we speak. So you can kind of see, you know, our goal here in our shop is to have, you know, karts finished, assembled on the showroom. We got like, I don't know, 18 or 19 up here right now and a bunch more in the back. You know, so basically our you know, our systems will be as streamlined as possible to where if somebody orders a go-kart, it can go out within 24 to 48 hours. So aside from that, like I said, a lot of the racing is going to be exciting here in the next couple weeks, the next couple of months with K1 opening up locally. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for, you know, like I said, what we stand for, you know, having a fast chassis that is built from the ground up for the American market. You know, that's what we stand for. 2-year warranty on all our frames. You know, our goal is to make something that's, you know, as fast as all the Italian stuff. And I think we've proved that more than a few times in the last few years. And yeah, something that lasts, you know what I'm saying? So something that's just as fast 2 years from when you bought it to when it was brand new. So that's just kind of, like I said, bringing the American-made dream back, and what that stands for has been huge. So yeah, if you're out there listening and, you know, you want to support us in this endeavor, yeah, give us a call anytime.
Yeah, well, I may have a mini shifter driver for you in a couple of years. My nephew actually, my brother, he loves horses and all that stuff. My nephew can't stand them. He loves cars, so may have a driver for you in the future. But there you guys have it. Billy Musgrave, the All-American badass, joining us here tonight, and it's been a pleasure. So a round of applause for Billy Musgrave joining us and making his way onto the show. Billy, I know you got a busy schedule ahead of you, and probably going to have to get back to work here in a couple of minutes, enough for the lunch break. So I'll let you kind of get back to that. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Thank you guys for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you, Billy.
Was Billy Musgrave there. So great. Really always great to hear from that guy. Again, one more star who got his maiden national victory a couple of weeks ago and then went back-to-back at Star Championship Series and at SKUSA Pro Tour. But that's coming after this quick commercial break, boys, and we'll be right back with James Overbeck.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, $70?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Brandon, why are there orders of just over $200 or more on whatever? Anyways, boys, we heard from Billy Musgrave there, and man, how great is it to talk to that guy every time that he comes on and kind of, spills his guts to us and lets us in on his everlasting wisdom.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. I swear, karting needs more people like Billy Musgrave in it, regardless of what series, what part of the country, whatever. You have a guy that has dedicated at this point half of his life, that is worked for everything he's got. He's brought innovative ideas to the table. He's built up his own American kart brand. He's won races at every level, just about every type of series. I mean, this guy is a 4-time Supernats winner. No one else can say that they have more wins than that. Only a handful of guys have 4 as well with them. Like, there's no one better than Billy Musgrave, and the way that he articulates everything is sensational. So, great interview, great person, factory kart, awesome year so far, and I'm excited to see what's next for them.
It's always cool to talk to people who share the same mindset as we do. I know we had that great interview with Sean Bailiff a couple weeks ago. He kind of shared his thoughts on the whole format and how much we drive and the testing time that we get and how to grow the sport as a whole. And then Billy pretty much just mapped it out there perfectly, right? I mean, we need to find a way to separate the pro from the semi-pro guys, and we've done a pretty good job of doing that. But obviously, when we have constant format changes, it makes things a little bit harder. I think Billy again said it perfectly. I think the original format was as good as we've probably gotten it. And then as we've gone throughout the season, having qualifying, heat, pre-final spread throughout the day, it's almost like the schedule of old, right? Versus the new schedule that we're trying to push forward. And again, with the format that we've kind of been using, it's almost like the pro guys are with the semi-pro guys again, and then all of a sudden we don't really have as much of a show to pitch. Now with the SKUSA Pro Show, obviously we still have the Pro Sunday event where it's kind of everything's put into 3 hours, which is awesome. But I think what Billy was kind of saying is this is why all the the pro level racing up into cars is so popular, is that they fit everything that the pros do into this really small format. And so it's cool to hear him kind of speak on the idea of, listen, Marian came in here, didn't test, put it P1 immediately, fast guy on the racetrack on first session out there. The pro guys, and this is nothing against any of the semi-pro guys, right? Because I know semi-pro is KA senior, and the KA senior class is arguably one of the hardest classes to win out there with how tough it is. But the pro guys, if we're gonna label them pros, they should have it should be a different schedule. They shouldn't have the same amount of practices as everybody else. Shouldn't be 7 sessions. Shouldn't be 5 sessions. It should be 1, 2 practices at most, and you're out there ripping laps for qualifying, heats, finals, whatever it may be. I think another cool point that Billy made before we bring James on, I think he said last year, really quick on the 1 lap pace, struggled in the long run. Now they've really revamped their go-kart really quick in the race pace. He's shown it the last couple weekends here. He personally has struggled on the 2-lap qualifying format, but that's a driver thing. He said, listen, I'm not maybe as strong in the qualifying format, but put me in a race situation on the long finals that we've been going on. That's where he shines. And I think it really highlights the pros. And yeah, it's always cool to talk to drivers. And I don't want to call Billy a driver. It's a driver, team owner, R&D guy, businessman, manufacturer, mechanic. I mean, literally he wears every hat in the book. And so to talk to him and for him to share the same vision as we do, that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely awesome to hear there from Billy. And we started this show off really young with Aden and Alex. We went to a lot of experience there with Billy, and then we go back to young with America's newest heartthrob in the karting community, James Overbeck. Went back-to-back in national race victories at the Star Championship Series and at the SKUSA Pro Tour. And you're, I should say, 2024 SKUSA Pro Tour champion and K100 senior. So round of applause here for James Overbeck, who's joining us on episode number 21 of KC Grid Talk. James, I mean, what a month of July did you just have? Walk me through the entire month. I know we talked on the phone earlier today, and you were like, yeah, I still can't believe it. But walk me through it. What's it been like, man?
Yeah, it's definitely been a long month. I mean, I can't even like remember about all the stuff that happened. Yeah, it was just one race and another. I mean, the race weekends, they feel like they're so close to one another. You don't have much time in between, so it feels all like a blur, honestly. I mean, between the Stars race and then I think we had a weekend off, but then I was doing club race and stuff that weekend, and then we were right back at SKUSA. So it feels like a never ending cycle, honestly, especially the upcoming months. I start school too, and that just adds it into a part of the cycle. But yeah, the month July I went to the Stars at MCC. Had a really good weekend. Put it in the wall again, of course, and but yes, still had to tear some stuff up that weekend, but it was really good to finally get a race win under my belt. It really gave me the confidence that to know that like I can do it and like what I'm kind of looking for in a race to really feel in control. And then I was kind of able to use that, then use it again at SKUSA and just kind of went from there. Just did about the same that I did at Stars and was able to win again and then end up securing the championship on Sunday. So it's been really good. And we're only getting better, get better every race. And I feel like I have been for a while now. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, especially working with the team, BJR, everyone under the tent. I mean, every race weekend, it's a fun time. We always, I mean, obviously we're there to race, but we add in messing around with each other, especially after the races a lot. And it's a lot of fun and it makes me look forward to each race weekend.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know your story is, not the unique story. And you talk about kind of messing around with the team and messing around with the tent. I remember walking in Wisconsin and they're watching your kind of kid kart video from back in the day where you were racing around at, I believe it was G&J.
Yeah.
So I guess take me back, to the start of your career and how it all came together. Take me all the way through, your cadet days, your junior days, and then how it kind of came about where you were a SKUSA Pro Tour champion this year.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I've been karting for 12, 13 years now. So I've been doing it for a long time. It started with my grandpa. I mean, he loved anything with an engine and wheels on it. He had his own automotive repair shop. In Cincinnati, where I live, he was like the guy on the radio who answered the phone calls. People got problems with their cars and stuff. But yeah, he got my dad into karting. My dad did it for a few years at the local club. And did a few street races and WK events back in like the 80s and 90s. But then he moved his cars for a while before I was born. And then I was born and I got my first kid kart when I was 4. But I mean, honestly, I was terrified of it. I didn't like it all that much. But yeah, I was supposed to do my first race as soon as I turned 5. But then over the winter, and that was winter of 2010, I ended up getting really sick over the winter, and after went to the hospital for a few times. I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. I had cancerous growth. I had a cancerous growth on both my kidneys, and had to fight through that. And was in the hospital for a few months. But honestly, I feel like that's part of the reason why I still do this. So when I was in the hospital, I got to spend a lot of time with my dad. And kind of just found out a lot of what I love to do and what I like for example, on the weekends, I'd watch NASCAR every weekend. And that was about the time when Jimmy Johnson was really doing good. And that's kind of who I fell in love with watching. So you see me rocking the 48, that's because of him. And me and my dad, we've worked together since day one, and we kind of look up to Jimmy and his crew chief, Chad Knaus. So yeah, all that, and then I finally did get back in the kart, but I was only a club racer for years. I mean, all the way up through kid kart, I only raced club. Did a few years in sportsman, 3-hole Yamaha, then 4-hole Yamaha. Did a little bit of Briggs, but always stayed local and never traveled much. But in the little traveling we did, we started to go to some of the WK events when WK was still big. But outside of that, stayed local for a really long time. And really didn't start to travel all that much until I moved up, or it was like my last year in sportsman. I I started to go down to GoPro for a lot of the club races or Trackhouse, and worked with the Nitro Kart team. And I was kind of on like the first initial like founding team of Nitro Kart with a couple other young drivers in Swift. But it was really the first time I was introduced to like driver coaching, and I was really able to get a lot better from that, and just the kind of resources they had. They had Ashley Ruggiero as one of the coaches. I think Austin Garrison was a coach at a couple of the races. So it was really cool to really learn and get better from them. But I was still pretty young and didn't really know what I was doing and like taking in that information. So once I moved up to junior, I feel like that's when I really started to grow with, and especially kind of learn the sport more with setup and how just things work, honestly. But that's when I started to run more of the CKNA events and the Briggs, and where we really started to get fast with that. And honestly, for a long time, I struggled with the two-stroke stuff. So we kind of focused more on Briggs for a really long time, especially all through junior. And I feel like that's where I really started to put myself on the map, was running the CKNA races, getting a lot of wins through that, and then eventually winning my first Grand Nationals in 2021. And when I was getting ready to move to senior, I was kind of hoping that I could be fast. I didn't think I would win right out of the gate, but I was just hoping to be competitive. And we went down to Daytona and Jacksonville for my first two senior races, and we did really well. I was able to win at Daytona in 206, and I won at Jacksonville. I actually beat Brandon Jarstacrack on the last lap. And I feel like that's honestly what kind of put me on the map by John Seglem, who owns PPK, which I'll get to him in a minute. But yeah, I moved on with 2022. When I first moved up to senior, went to the CKNA Spring Nationals, swept there, won senior light and senior medium. And then later on that summer, John Seglem contacted my dad. He wanted me to do a arrive and drive down at a SSKC race in Florida, and went down there and was able to win. And he actually had Brandon come down, and that's where we really started to meet Jarstacrack and get to know him a little bit better. And through the rest of the year, we were kind of looking forward to maybe working with Brandon on the two-stroke side, because we always wanted to get better in the two-stroke, but it wasn't our biggest priority. So later on the year, had CKNA Grands, finished second in medium, didn't win, but so we kind of felt like at the end of that year, like we kind of accomplished most of what we needed to or wanted to do in Briggs. And we kind of wanted to get better in the two-stroke stuff, because like I said, I think in my interviews after the SKUSA races, like I looked up to the people who won the SKUSA and USPKS races for so long, and never really thought that would be me, but always like kind of wanted to make a push to try to do that. So we decided that we wanted to work with Brandon a little bit, because we were like kind of in the tent experience before with the Nitro Kart guys, but we kind of moved away from that and tried to do our own thing at the big races, but just got destroyed. I mean, I was trying to like not be in the LCQs and stuff. So yeah, I started to work with Brandon a little bit. And that's where we really found out what a big problem was one, my driving was a pretty big problem. I wasn't the best driver in a K, but it was also the motor program. I mean, we didn't work that hard or focus that much on a K motor program, but we quickly found out that you need a good motor to compete at these races. And that's where Brandon, he really helped connecting us with BBS and just getting better driver coaching. I mean, with all that, I mean, I've been able to just get better every race. I feel like, learn more. And that was a big part of last year, working with Brandon all year, was just getting better each race. And I was always showing that I could be fast, but just couldn't put it all together, especially with the racecraft side of things. So he kind of helped with all that the past few years. And then this year, I feel like we've really been able to put it all together and have just been working away at it, and eventually was finally able to get those wins and be a SKUSA champion, which like I said, I mean, a few years ago, I would have thought you were crazy if you said I was going to win a SKUSA championship at this time. But yeah, it's super cool. But I can't thank Brandon enough for changing me as a driver and making me that much better, turning me from a Briggs racer to a really good K racer and a 2-stroke. So yeah, it's been a long journey for sure.
Yeah.
I probably missed some things in there, some of the important parts, but that was just a brief overview. I mean, it's 12 years is a long time, but made a lot of memories through it and have fell in love with the sport more and more each day.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really, really cool story, especially, you know, finding a love over after going through what you went through and being in the hospital for so long at such a young age. And, you know, it's super cool that, you know, you look back and you went through everything that you went through, whether it was with motors, whether it was with the Kench that you kind of fought off, and kind of being where you are now. And you said it yourself, right? And whenever I remember doing that interview with you after you actually won, and I was like, I told David, I was like, hey, like, I want to get the chance to talk to James here, because, you know, we talked a lot about it. I interviewed you as well last year whenever you won the Stars Championship, and you're like, man, I don't feel like a champion. I don't feel like I deserve this, because I didn't even win a race this year. I podiumed a whole lot, but I didn't even win a race. And then you start to this year, right? And the podium allegations or whatever come up, you're always fast, and you can't finish on the podium after you went 360 in Orlando. That was your last podium, and you go on and on and on, and then you get on the podium at Stars at USBKS. Not Stars. What did I just say? Goodness gracious!
Stars
you get on the
USBKS.
podium at Stars Newcastle. Sorry, you get on the podium at Stars Newcastle, and you're like, yeah, but now I have winning allegations. And I'm like, all right, this kid just got on the podium, worked so hard to get back on the podium, and he's even hungrier to go back and even get a win. And then after the Stars race, you finally get it done, and it's over. I you know, whenever you cross the line and finish the line in first, I kid you not, and to anybody who's watching, I got chills after that, and I feel like it was like a full circle moment, and one of the coolest moments I think I've seen in my time announcing. It's only been a year, but I've seen a lot of cool stuff, you know, from Dalton winning to a lot of other stuff, and I think one of yours puts it right up there with kind of Dalton winning, and it was really kind of, I had chills, and I was like, man, this is, you know, one of the coolest things that I think I've seen. So congrats. And I know a lot of people at home definitely feel the same way, but enough about that. I know these boys have questions for you, and I have a couple of more for you as well, but we'll kick it off with Emory here.
Yeah, I mean, James, first off, it was awesome kind of hearing your story all the way from the first person, because, I mean, I knew you, the first time I really got to know you was a bit with Nitro back in like 2019, 2020 or so. And, you know, like, I feel like it's been awesome to see the last 4 years or so, the growth that you've had. I mean, especially in the last year or so. But you mentioned kind of going from accomplishing really everything you wanted to on the 4-stroke side of things. I mean, CKNA, Grands in 2021, you had a lot of pace pretty much everywhere you would go, beat pretty much any major name in the 4-stroke side of things. And then you go to 2-stroke, and I mean, like you mentioned, I think the first year in senior was pretty rough. And even like the start of last year, like you kind of had your ups and downs, but then I guess you mentioned kind of working with Brandon, kind of helping a ton. But I mean, I can kind of think back to like a few of the early races last year where it really seemed like you kind of put it together all together. Like, I mean, I remember personally, you got the pole at Stars Newcastle. You were quick in Pittsburgh, quick at decent IME Grands, quick at a number of other places. But I guess at what point, like, was there ever a race or like a moment where it kind of clicked for you where you're like, hey, like, I know I can do this now? Because you mentioned beating Jarsacrack at Jacksonville in 2022 was kind of that moment in 4-stroke. But what would you say was the moment, if there is one, in 2-stroke where you kind of realize like, hey, like, these guys in K, they really aren't that much better than me?
I think there's honestly a few moments. I think one of the big moments was, I think it was at the beginning of last year. I went to one of the GoPro Club races, and I was actually able to win. It was like the first race on a different configuration. I was able to beat Dalton, and I was able to beat Dalton, Hayden, and I feel like there was someone else up there. But Yeah, I mean that was definitely one of the big moments in Emory. Yeah, but that was definitely one of the big moments that I was like I actually can compete with these guys. And I think another one was honestly this year was after Speed Sports. I think at Speed Sports in the USPKS final, I think I started seventh or something. It was pretty decent, but I got destroyed in the final. Like I just kept going backwards, making really bad decisions, trying to go to the outside when I should have gone to the inside, or going to the inside when I shouldn't have, when I should have gone to the outside, just stuff like that. I feel like after that we went to a Route 66 race after that, and I got wrecked in one of the heat races, so I had to start kind of deep in the field in the final. But in the final, like we didn't think we had the best speed, but I was able to really just drive forward, kind of take control of the race, and I ended up getting wrecked on the last lap. But still, I think that race weekend was a huge confidence booster. Just thinking like I can do this, like I can make good decisions, just gaining more confidence in myself. Just thinking like I can do this, like I can be up here. I just have to really put it all together and just make safe and good decisions. Just can't hesitate, can't feel like uncomfortable at any point. So I think I would have to say that's there. It isn't one specific moment like how it is for the Briggs, but it's definitely a combination of, I feel like those two races were big factors in it.
Yeah, and I guess kind of going along with that, like you kind of have the moments where you realize like, oh man, like I'm quick. And you mentioned the race one that you had on the alt layout in 2023 at the club race was really impressive. But after that, it seemed like, I mean, you had any number of kind of one-on-one, one-on-two, one-on-three situations where it didn't go your way. I mean, Newcastle 2023, Pittsburgh 2023. Like I know Xander kind of mentioned a lot on the commentary, sort of the struggles in 24 with closing races, but I think really there's 6 or 7 where I would say you put yourself in the right situations and didn't quite work out, didn't quite win those one-on-one battles. So I guess my question on that end is like, what do you think changed in the last month that kind of allowed you to close the race? Is there anything particular that you've done differently, prep-wise, maybe coaching-wise from Brandon, or has it just kind of been finally getting the ball to spin your way?
I think it's just gaining the confidence and just kind of what I'm looking for towards the end of the race and feeling more comfortable. Like I remember many years ago, Brent Cruz's stepdad, Matt Langford, he said, there's a million ways to lose one of these races. And you just need a few things to go your way. And I've kind of always thought about that. Like I just need I need one more thing to go my way, and I could have won that race. But yeah, I feel like just being more comfortable, especially with the tight racing in K, with how much blocking that happens when the pack gets so big, it's like 10, 15 people, like just feeling more comfortable in those positions. And even I still even struggle with it a little bit, but at Stars, that was really the first time like I really felt like in control. Like in the 4-stroke stuff for many years, like it was just like when I would try to win those races, like I would just try and be in control of the race. Just don't freak out when things like something doesn't go my way. Don't freak out too much. Just keep going. Like you'll be there at the end, and just make moves when you can towards the end of the race. And I feel like that's what I struggle with a lot in the K, just because I feel like everything's happening so much faster. It's so much harder to really concentrate and think about what I'm really doing. But yeah, in the past few months, I feel like it like I said, it's just come together, like I've just been more comfortable, getting better each race with it, and just putting myself in better spots, like I feel like before I'd maybe put myself in the lead at a wrong time or push a little too hard, didn't save my tires enough. But yeah, this last few races, it's really starting to come together, and I feel like I know what I'm looking for now during a race to try and get the job done. But yeah,
I think you touched on it pretty well there at the end. It's finally coming together. You have a lot of people in your corner. I think the Cincinnati race really highlighted it well. Kaleb touched on it a little bit. The emotional side of it, right? I mean, I got to actually watch most of that final standing right next to Paulie Massimino. I know Jar's Crack's taking you under his wing, but what does it mean to you now? 12 years in the making, right? You've done it on the national scene in 206, the club level in KA, but now this recent success. I don't even say recent success, because last year you were strong. You were really strong this year, but now it's coming together. You are a legitimate, winning contender every race weekend that you go to. I mean, what does it mean for you and your dad? You touched on his backstory as well, before you were born, doing the car stuff a little bit. I mean, and he's seen you climb through the ranks. What does it mean for you and your dad and really the whole BGR crew to see all this work really, mean it?
Yeah, I think for my dad, I think he would really say the same thing as I said, with just watching people, especially under Nitro Kart, just be able to win these big races for years, just seeing them on the podium, holding these big trophies. Like, I think my dad definitely looked up to those people as well. But yeah, with the BJR team, I think it means a lot to them, because I know, they've been there for me every step of the way. They've always been trying to help me to get better. I mean, every person on the team, whether it's Brandon or even one of the mechanics, like everyone there is like, they're just so supportive of me, and they're always trying to help me get better. And the fact that, and it's not even just the BJR team. I mean, there are multiple teams in the paddock, like MPG guys, like they were on the fence for me when I won that MCC race, and I've never even been a part of their team. So it's just super cool to have so many teams being like supportive of me, even if I've never spent $1 with them. It just shows how good the karting community can be, with how much people are there to support you. And I feel like that's really helped a lot too. Just them showing that they have the confidence in me to really be able to win. And with everyone under BJR, like I said, they've all helped so much, and just try to keep pushing me to get better. And even when the race doesn't go my way or something goes wrong, I mean, they're still there for me. They still tell me that I did a good job. And even Brand's always honest with me, and that's what I love. Like I think after I said the Speed Sports final earlier was a really bad race for me. I mean, after the race, Brand's like, I think that's one of the worst races I've ever seen you race. I mean, just straight honest with me. And I love that about it, because I knew that. And I feel like he helps me with that. And just so I know, when something is my fault, I don't like to blame other things before I blame myself. Like, if a wreck happens on track, I just kind of think, well, I probably should have put myself in a better spot, and that wouldn't have happened. So yeah, he's been able to help a lot with getting better, and just being able to support me, and really showing trust in me that he knows that I can do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you also talked a lot about your dad and kind of what he's done. And I always see you guys go to whatever racetrack with y'all's camper and trailer, and he's usually the guy there with you, and either turning a wrench or picking up your cart and putting it down. And funny story, actually, now that we're on it here, I think it was, obviously 2 weeks ago at the SKUSA Pro Tour, your dad's kind of sitting there on the stands watching you race that main event, as you're looking to kind of make yourself a champion, right? And my job that race was to go around and find people standing around on the fence line and put a camera in their face. And I see your dad, I'm like, this is the perfect guy. His son's racing for a championship right now. And he sees me and he's like, dang it. Like, he's coming up here. But he had the most stone cold face, like I think any dad could have there. And I'm sure your dad's watching. So Mr. Overbeck, if you're watching, sorry about that, but you kind of helped us grow James's storyline a little bit more, and just I guess another stepping stone for you as well. But what's that kind of been like, to have your dad there with you and backing you every step of the way, and supporting you, whether it's turning a wrench or paying the bill or doing whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, with him being focused on the race, I mean, I feel he's always been that way. He's like, don't even talk to him during a race, or else he'll get pissed off. So he's always been like that. But I think, like I said, connecting back to when I was in the hospital, I mean, we spent a lot of time together. We played like Super Mario together and stuff on the Wii. We watched some movies together, just because he stayed with me each night in the hospital. So that's kind of where we grew our relationship and kind of bonded together. So that's just carried all the way to this point. And when he was in karts with his dad or with my grandpa was always he was kind of there, but he was or he was just kind of there, wasn't really helping out with anything. But my dad kind of like he wanted to be there. He wanted to be a part of it with me. And yeah, he's definitely been there every step of the way. He makes sure nothing falls off the cart, which he does a really good job of. I mean, knock on wood, I can't really remember the last time we had a big mechanical failure, but yeah, he's always been there every step of the way. He's always there to support me too. I mean, he always tells me good job no matter what. He knows how difficult it can be because he's a racer himself, you know. So it's also nice to connect with him that way, just from racer to racer rather than father to son. And I think that's really been a huge part of it too, is because he kind of understands my side of it too, over the mechanic side of it and the dad side of it. So it's been fun to have him along the way. I mean, he's been there every step of the way from the club level to winning these big races. And so it's been so fun to really be able to do it with him rather than with just a random mechanic that a lot of these kids spend their time with. And I mean, I remember a few years ago when I was in cadet, he cut his thumb open working on a table saw. And even then, that was the only race weekend we ever had a mechanic, just because he was down one hand, he couldn't even use it. So, but I mean, even when we had the mechanic, he was still making sure like he did the right thing. They're trying to help out even when he could. So it's been awesome to share this many memories with him and be able to grow as a person and as a racer alongside of him.
Yeah, no, very, very cool to hear. But go ahead, Emory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think honestly, seeing you and your dad have that success, and especially kind of knowing sort of you guys have done it on your own, you've done it under Brendan Sitwich, and in general, you've kind of gone through so many different environments and had so much success. It's awesome to see. Kind of on the present term, though, you know, you have one pro national semi-pro national championship, although KA is really tough to win. You have one under your belt in this season in Pro Tour. You're looking pretty good, dare I say it, for stars to repeat. Don't want to jinx you on that one, but it does look pretty solid at this point in the season. This weekend, you go to USPKS. Of the three series, I would say it's the one that you've probably had kind of the worst time this year, between the incident you had in the final with Persing and Dalsman, and then obviously Texas, you mentioned kind of one of your worst races, and then Trackhouse. You had that week. You started on the front row with Paulie, led a lot of the race. Last two laps kind of got away from you there. But I mean, you come into this weekend not great in points, but still with a decent shot at the top five. Obviously, track you know very well. What's your mindset heading into this one, and maybe what are some of your goals for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's definitely less stressful than the SKUSA weekend. And earlier this year, we kind of wanted to make a push at the USPKS races, but yeah, with kind of how things have unfolded, with a little bit of bad luck at Badger, and then just the unfortunate end at the Trackhouse race. It's kind of refreshing to come into one of these race weekends just with a little less stress, because I've kind of accepted that I'm not going to be able to win the USPKS championship, but I can still do decent. And I think I'm just more coming in with a mindset on just either winning or trying to have fun, rather than forcing myself that like I have to have a good finish to this race if I want a chance, you know. So it's not as stressful as some of the past weekends have been earlier this year. But yeah, I think trying to win a USPKS race, I think that's definitely next on the list of things I want to accomplish before I just accomplish in general. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it'd definitely be nice to try and get a win this weekend for sure in front of a home crowd. And for the rest of the year, I mean, I already accomplished so much this year, I feel like, and there's still a lot of the race season left. So I think just continuing to get better. I think that's definitely the big thing. And maybe even at the end of the year at Super Nash, just have a shot at running up front and being competitive. I think that's more than I could ever dream of, you know? So yeah, I think I'll be looking forward to closing out the year with the BJR boys and just trying to get better and hopefully giving ourselves a shot at one of the biggest races in the world.
Emory touched on it a little bit, talking about how, KA is a semi-pro class, but it's one of the hardest, if not arguably the hardest class to win. But you've done it all, from the 4-stroke to the KA side of things. What's next for you? I mean, we've seen a couple of drivers do the jump from KA to the pro stuff in X30. I mean, can we expect that from you?
I'm not too sure yet, honestly. I've just been really focused on K just because that's what's been more fun to me. I kind of tried the shifter thing for a little bit. I did a stars race with it, and it wasn't that fun to me, to be completely honest. But it was definitely challenging. But after the K, I don't really know. I think if I win the stars championship again in K, I kind of feel like I'll have to maybe try and force myself to try the OKN stuff and maybe move to X30 at some point. I know Brandon's kind of hinted at it. He definitely wants me to try it and see how I can end up doing. So you can maybe that'll be in the future next year or so, but I don't know. I'd be open to it. We've definitely thought about it for a little bit now, and I'd be open to try. I mean, working with Paulie, that'd be really fun. Working with him every weekend, just trying to get better. And I know he would help me, especially getting started, just getting better, because I've never driven an X3 before, so I don't really know what to expect if I were to move up. But yeah, I think with the BJR team, MDR team, I think they'll definitely be there to help me with if we do make that transition at some point. They'll definitely coach me and get me a little bit better, and hopefully if I do, we can be competitive and run up towards the front.
Yeah, and that's interesting, and I know your dad's probably oh goodness gracious, Alex Searle wants me to spend more money on James and whatnot, but I'm sure your dad's gonna be happy to hear that. These guys want you to race X30. I want you to do it at school, because I know you're starting college in a couple of weeks, going to Xavier's. So school first, and I should just say the same thing to myself as well. School first, and then worried about racing later, but. You got a big future ahead of you, James, and seeing you kind of grow has definitely been cool. And lastly, here to kind of end this show off and end off the segment here with you, the floor is yours. Promote yourself as much as you want. What do you got coming up? Obviously, you're racing this weekend, but what do you got coming up for the rest of the year, and where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so for the rest of the year, I think we're really just running almost any race you can think of, honestly. Between fishing out USPKS and then run some of the big races and for the CKNA Grands and finishing out the Stars Championship too, and probably I'll be at Supernets. But outside of that, in a few weeks we're thinking about if we can get deal together running the Rotex race at Newcastle. That's a possibility. And also the endurance races at Newcastle might be one or both of those two. One event I don't know about is Rock Vegas yet, but if any teams out there need a driver, I'm available. So I'd love to be able to go do that too. And yeah, I think outside of that, I mean, really, I'm almost doing everything between the biggest races you can think of, and I'll probably be at some club races too, down at Trackhouse over the winter. So I'll be everywhere, honestly. Even with school starting, hopefully I can still do a lot of these races and staying home for school. I'm just going to be commuting, so that'll definitely make it easier. I'll still be able to race karts, be able to work on them during the day, during the week. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to close out the year. I always feel like in these fall months that I start to do better for some reason, close out the year a little bit better. So we've already had a great year so far, so hopefully we can make it an even better ending.
Yeah, so how about that for James Overbeck? Took us through his entire story and took us through his entire career, and now a SKUSA Pro Tour champ, Stars national race winner. He's contender for the Star Championship as well, and he looks to go back-to-back at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati this weekend. So round of applause for James Overbeck joining us on episode number 21 of KC Grid Talk. Thank you so much for coming on, James. I know you're supposed to be on last week, but thank you so much for bearing with us and coming on this week. So a pleasure to have you on, James, and we'll see you later on this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. See you either tomorrow or on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Playing Thursday, so see you Thursday, man.
See you. Thank you.
Yep, for sure. Thanks for coming on.
Thank
So
you,
there you
James.
guys have it from James Overbeck. And man, what a story for James Overbeck. And what a pleasure to really have him on. And what a pleasure to have all our guests on so far today. From Aden, Rudolph, Alex, Stanfield, Billy Musgrave, James Overbeck. You can't forget us. You know, we're also, you know, we do
important.
something. We do something as well. You know, we got to book all these guys. We got to do all that stuff. So Emory Lyda, Alex, Searle, myself, Kaleb Viesca, it's always a pleasure to bring all this to you guys. And we know it was a long one.
Scared me.
Outro music. We know it was a long one. 2 hours plus. I think this is the longest interview we had so far, but it's been a pleasure doing this with all you guys. Kaleb Viesca, Alex Searle, Emory Lyda. It's been a good one. You can find all of our Instagram handles under our names here, and we'll see you later on this weekend. All three of us will be on site at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, and that's it for tonight. Have a good night from all of us here at KC Grid Talk. We'll see you guys next week.